Have you ever stopped to think about the power behind your own name? Not only as a social label, but as a true symbol of its essence, carrying deep meanings, subtle energies, and, who knows, messages from your unconscious. What if I told you that Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, believed that there is something much bigger behind the simple act of saying or hearing a name? In this video, we'll dive into a fascinating concept, the sound archetypes of the soul. Jung dedicated his life to deciphering the mysteries of the human psyche, the dreams, the symbols, the myths, and, perhaps unbeknownst to many, the name we carry from birth can be one of the most powerful keys to understanding our own inner journey. Get ready for a profound journey that goes beyond traditional psychology and touches on the most archaic roots of the human being. You will understand how the sounds, hidden meanings, and even vibration of your name can be connected to your life purpose, your talents, and even the challenges you face. If this type of content resonates with you, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Here we explore the invisible, the symbolic, what is not seen but felt. Now, take a deep breath and allow yourself to look at your name as you have never looked before. Because the next part of that journey will show you that, since the earliest times, names have always carried a sacred weight. They were not chosen at random. Ancient people believed that to name something was to give existence, it was to make it real. The name was a spell, a summoning of unseen forces. And as much as we live in an apparently more rational world today, this symbolic connection is still alive, even if unconsciously. Carl Jung, with his deep sensitivity to the mysteries of the human soul, saw names as more than simple conventions. For him, everything that touches the psyche carries meaning, and the names, which we hear repeatedly throughout life, work as personal mantras. They shape our self-image, influence how we see ourselves, and even how we are perceived by others. The sound, the vibration, the symbolic associations, everything matters. Imagine, for example, a child growing up and hearing your name daily. Every time someone calls her, she is reinforcing an identity. It's evoking an emotional response. Some names sound soft, welcoming. Others are strong, imposing. And this is not just an aesthetic issue. The sound of a name can evoke archetypal sensations, primordial images that inhabit the collective unconscious. And that's where archetypes come into play. Jung believed that archetypes are universal psychic structures present in all human beings. They are inherited patterns that shape our experiences and behaviors. They appear in myths, stories, dreams, and, curiously, they can also manifest themselves in sounds. The vibration of certain words and names can resonate with certain archetypes. A name like Helena can evoke the mythical beauty of ancient Greece. A name like Arthur may remind you of a righteous and warlike king. It is no coincidence. It is a collective unconscious manifesting itself in the form of language. And we are not just talking about literal or etymological meanings, but the archetypal energy that a name carries. Sometimes, this energy gets in tune with who the person is. Other times, it reveals potentials not yet awakened. Your name can be a mirror or a map. It can show who you've been or who they are destined to become. When you hear your name, what do you feel? Is there a strength in it? A softness? Does it arouse pride, estrangement, comfort? The emotional reaction we have when we hear our own name is a valuable clue. It can indicate the presence of internal conflicts, rejections, or, on the contrary, deep integration with our identity. But there's something even more intriguing. What if your name isn't just a reflection, but a calling? A kind of internal compass, pointing to the central themes of your life? Jung said that the unconscious does not do anything by chance. If we believe that there is a symbolic intelligence behind everything, then perhaps the name we have been given, or chosen to carry, contains messages that are waiting to be deciphered. And this is precisely where the concept of sound archetypes gains strength. Because when we look at our name not only as a label, but as a symbolic key, we start to access a new level of self-knowledge. We begin to perceive patterns, feel resonances, intuit connections that were hidden. All of this leads us to an inevitable and deeply transformative question: what is your name trying to tell you? And more, how to discover the archetypes that are hidden in it. The answer begins to emerge when we learn to listen not only with our ears, but with the soul. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. To begin deciphering the hidden messages of your name, you need to go beyond the surface. It is not enough just to know its meaning in the dictionary of names. That's just the tip of the iceberg. The real dive happens when you start to observe your name as a living symbol, a unique combination of sound, shape, vibration, and history. And, more importantly, how it reacts inside you. Each name is made up of sounds that arouse specific emotions. Jung talked a lot about the power of symbols and how they act directly on the unconscious, provoking reactions that we often cannot even explain rationally. The sound of your name can evoke memories, archetypes, images. And this happens not only because it has been repeated countless times during your life, but because certain phonemes activate deep registers within the psyche. Soft sounds can be linked to the mother or mistress archetype, drier and stronger sounds to the warrior or the king. It is as if your name has its own vibrational code, and this code dialogues with the oldest and most universal layers of your being. But we are not talking here about an exact science. The beauty of the symbolic universe is precisely its openness to interpretations, to multiple meanings. What really counts is the way you feel your name. Does it echo as a truth or does it seem to clash with its essence? Sometimes, discomfort with one's own name can reveal a conflict between the persona, the mask we wear in the world, and the self, which is our true center. And this discomfort can be an invitation to reconciliation, to reintegrate parts that have been forgotten or repressed. Therefore, observing how your name resonates emotionally is an essential step. Try to say your name out loud, slowly. Observe the sound, the vibration, the mental images that arise. What does this sound remind you of? What sensations does it provoke? Do you feel firm? Sweetness? Lightness? This active listening is not just sensorial, it is symbolic. It's like opening a door to the unconscious and letting it manifest itself, without filters. Another interesting point is that, throughout life, many people adapt or change their names. Some adopt nicknames, others choose artistic or spiritual names. And this is not just a matter of taste, it is a deep movement of the psyche, which seeks to align the external identity with the internal. Choosing a new name can be a rite of passage, a way to mark a new cycle, an inner transformation. Jung would see this as an attempt to reconfigure the personal symbol that represents us in the world. And there are also those who carry a name with which they have never identified. In these cases, the conflict may be indicating an archetypal journey not yet lived, a call not yet answered. The name, then, works as a mirror of the soul, revealing not only what we are, but what we can still become. It is as if he were saying, your mission is still in progress. Therefore, perceiving your name as a living symbol, and not just as a label, is an invitation to self-knowledge. It is a pathway to access deeper dimensions of your psyche and to understand the archetypes that shape your experience in the world. And now that you've started to hear your name with other ears, you may be wondering, is there a practical way to identify which archetypes are most present in this vibration? How can we map these internal forces from something as seemingly simple as a name? That's exactly what we're going to explore next. Identifying the archetypes present in your name may seem like a subjective task at first glance, but there are ways to access this symbolic dimension with more clarity and depth. The starting point is symbolic listening, the ability to perceive beyond logic, to sense the hidden meanings in words, especially those we use to name ourselves. One of the most effective ways to start this process is to look at the predominant sounds of your name. What are the most striking consonants and vowels? Do they have a light or intense sound, soft or cutting? This is not a traditional linguistic analysis, but rather an intuitive, archetypal listening. Names that begin with strong sounds like K, R, or T often evoke an energy of action, of presence, of leadership, traits associated with archetypes such as the warrior, the hero, or the king. Names that start with soft sounds, such as L, M, or S, can bring a more welcoming, introspective vibe linked to the archetype of the mother, the wise, or the healer. Another important point is the etymological meaning of the name. While it's not the only factor to consider, it offers valuable clues. A name that means light, protection, strength, freedom, or peace already carries a powerful symbolic potential embedded. But the most interesting thing happens when we cross this meaning with the personal history of those who carry the name. There are often surprising synchronicities, as if the name has been a seed planted from birth, and one's whole life has been conspiring to make that seed bloom. In addition, we can explore the archetypes present in myths, legends, and universal stories. Think of names that appear in mythology, religions, fairy tales. They usually carry very well-defined archetypes. A name like Isis, for example, is linked to the Egyptian mother goddess, guardian of magic and rebirth. Names like David, Helena, Arthur, Gaia, Eva, all of them carry with them deep echoes of ancestral narratives that still inhabit the collective unconscious. But what if your name isn't linked to any known myth? It doesn't matter. The archetypal energy can be there anyway, hidden in the sound, in the way people react to it, or in the way you feel when you say it. Often, the most present archetype is not the one on the surface, but the one that pulsates in the background, silent but active. Another interesting way is to observe the recurring patterns in your life. What kind of situations do you attract? What roles do you usually play in relationships? Is there a symbolic repetition that seems to lead you to certain themes? Your name, as a symbol, may be dialoguing with these patterns, functioning as a kind of energetic signature. Jung would call this the manifestation of the self, the psychic totality trying to express itself through symbols, repetitions, images. And the name, in this sense, can be both a reflection and an instrument of transformation. Finally, a powerful practice is symbolic meditation with your name. Silently, repeat your name in your mind, slowly and rhythmically. Allow images to emerge. Don't try to control or interpret right away. Just watch. What feelings appear? What memories come to light? What sensations run through the body? This deep listening can reveal much more than any rational analysis. Because, as Jung teaches us, the language of the soul is symbolic, and it reveals itself in silence, in dreams, in inner images. To get here is to awaken to a new perception of oneself. You are not just someone who has a name. You are someone who lives inside it, and who can turn it into a key to self-knowledge. But there is still a deeper layer to this journey. Because, by understanding the archetype of your name, you begin to touch something even vaster, the symbolic destiny that it may be indicating. And that's what we're going to talk about next. If the name carries an archetypal vibe, then it's not just a description, it can be a direction. And it is here that we enter fascinating territory, that of symbolic destiny. Carl Jung believed that each human being has a kind of inner script, a deep call that the unconscious seeks to manifest throughout life. He called this the process of individuation, the path to becoming who you really are, to aligning with yourself, the totality of your psyche. In this process, symbols play an essential role. They are like invisible compasses, pointing to experiences, themes, and learnings that we need to experience. The name, as a personal symbol and repeated daily, can be one of these compasses. It does not determine your destiny, but indicates potentials, possible paths, recurring patterns, hidden vocations. Think, for example, about how certain names seem to appeal to certain experiences. People with names associated with light often engage in processes of healing, teaching, inspiration. Names associated with war or protection often manifest themselves in people who fight for causes, defend others, face great internal and external battles. This is not a rigid rule, but the symbolic manifestation. The name can function as a mythical call, an invitation for you to align yourself with the forces that are already latent within you. And this symbolic call is not always revealed in an easy way. Sometimes, it presents itself as a conflict, a dissatisfaction with one's own identity, a feeling of not being on the right path. At these times, looking at your name with symbolic eyes can bring surprising answers. You may notice that you have been resisting your natural archetype, or that it is living only a part of it, while others remain dormant. Jung said that the psyche seeks balance. If there is something not experienced, it tends to return as a symptom, a dream, a crisis, or as a silent desire for change. And the name, as a symbolic representation of the self, can be a mirror that reveals these gaps. It can show you what still needs to be integrated. There are also those cases in which the name seems to anticipate a path. People who choose their own names at some point in their lives often report a change in energy, a sense of reunion. It's not just an aesthetic or social issue, it's an archetypal movement. They are naming their true nature. You are consciously taking on the symbol that you wish to carry and manifest in the world. When you recognize the archetype of your name and understand its relationship with your symbolic destiny, you become clearer about your choices. You stop living on automatic and start acting with purpose. This does not mean that everything will be revealed immediately, but that you now have one more tool in your self-knowledge process. An internal map that can guide you through the most confusing or challenging phases of life. And the most beautiful thing about it all is to realize that the name is not a limit. It is a portal. A starting point for an inner journey that can unfold in surprising ways. The name is just a seed. It is up to you to water, care for, and allow it to grow in the direction of your true being. Now that we have delved into this deeper understanding of the name as a symbol and as a calling, an even more intriguing question arises. How does this manifest itself in practice? In what ways can this awareness transform your relationship with yourself, with others, and with the world around you? This is precisely the next step in our journey. When we become aware of the symbolic power of our name, something changes internally. It's not just new information, it's a kind of silent reconfiguration that happens in the way we see ourselves and place ourselves in the world. From that point on, the relationship with one's own name ceases to be passive. It is no longer just an inherited brand and becomes an instrument of conscious expression of the being. And this transformation begins to be reflected in the little things. In the way you present yourself, in the energy you put into saying your name, in the posture with which you occupy spaces. A name, when recognized as a living symbol, becomes an affirmation of identity. And this statement echoes. It reverberates in relationships, projects, and the choices you make. You begin to align yourself with what the name summons, and life responds. This symbolic alignment can generate very noticeable practical changes. Many people report that, after this type of awakening, they start to attract experiences that are more consistent with their talents and vocations. Others finally understand certain repetitive patterns that seemed random. And there are still those who feel a renewed creative impulse, as if they had rediscovered a forgotten part of themselves. The truth is that the name acts as a symbolic center of gravity. It concentrates a vibration that interacts with everything around us, the personal unconscious, the collective, the archetypes, the dreams, the desires. When this center harmonizes with who you really are, everything seems to flow more naturally. But when there is conflict, when the name does not express the essence, or when there is resistance to its archetype, life can become heavier, more fragmented, more confusing. Therefore, it is not enough to just know the archetype of your name. It is necessary to dialogue with him, integrate him, let him act consciously. And in some cases, this dialogue can even lead to a name change, or at least to the choice of a new way of presenting yourself. A nickname, a second name, a stage or spiritual name. All of this can function as a symbolic reconfiguration of identity. Jung did not see this as an escape, but as a creative response from the psyche. When an old name no longer contains the totality of who you have become, it is natural to seek new expressions. But, beyond the name change, the most important thing is the relationship you establish with him. You can keep the same name for life and still experience countless inner transformations. The name will always be the same in spelling, but it may resonate in completely different ways as you transform. It's like an archetypal symbol that unfolds, revealing new layers as you move forward on your personal journey. And this journey is not linear. Sometimes it takes us back to the origin. Childhood, the first moments we heard our name, the people who pronounced it with affection or pain, all of these leave marks. By revisiting these memories with a symbolic look, we can reframe experiences and reconnect with aspects of the soul that have been left behind. The name, then, becomes a bridge between past and future, between what we were and what we can still be. Basically, To recognize the symbolic value of the name is to recognize that nothing in us is random. That even the most mundane, like the sound by which we are called, can contain profound messages about our purpose, our challenges, and our potentials. And it is precisely with this perspective that we approach the conclusion of this journey. Because now, with all these symbolic keys in hand, we can take the final step, understand how this awareness is integrated into our lives in a practical, transformative, and lasting way. We have reached the end of a symbolic journey that, in fact, is just the beginning of another, the path of self-knowledge through your name. Throughout this dive, we explore the idea that the name is not a simple set of letters, but a living, pulsating symbol loaded with hidden meanings, archetypes, and potentials that often go unnoticed in everyday life. We understand that each name brings a unique sound vibration capable of awakening images, emotions, and deep memories. We learn that it can reflect aspects of our unconscious, reveal patterns of behavior, and even point to paths that our soul wants to follow. Jung showed us that the language of the psyche is symbolic, and when we look at the name with that same look, it ceases to be a label and becomes a mirror. A mirror that, instead of just reflecting, reveals. We also talked about how the name can indicate a calling. A symbolic destiny that is not imposed, but suggested, like a trail that lights up when we are ready to see it. When we hear our name with awareness, when we feel its vibration with an open heart, we realize that it carries clues about our mission, about the archetypes that inhabit us and that want to be lived. More than that, we have seen how this awareness can be applied in a practical way. How it can transform the way we present ourselves, perceive ourselves, and interact with the world. Because by integrating the archetype of our name, we stop walking blindly and start walking with purpose. It doesn't mean having all the answers, but trusting the wisdom that emerges when we align with who we are in essence. And the most beautiful thing about it all is to realize that, even if the name never changes, the way we relate to it can change completely. The name can become a constant reminder of who we are, where we came from, and where we are going. It can anchor us in times of uncertainty, strengthen us in times of transformation, and inspire us when we need to remember our own light. So the final invitation is simple but powerful. Recognize your name as a sacred symbol. Reflect on it, meditate on it, dialogue with it. Observe what awakens in you, what moves, what ignites. And, above all, allow yourself to transform your relationship with this symbol that has accompanied you since the beginning of your story. Because, in the end, the name you carry may have been your soul's first call, and it may well be the map of a path that only you can walk. If this journey resonated with you, don't forget to like, share it with those who need to hear it, and of course, subscribe to the channel to continue exploring themes that connect soul, symbols, and consciousness. We'll meet on the next dive. Until then,